Why are people in Lebanon rioting right now? Because they want their own money, and the banks won't let them get it. This country is suffering perhaps the worst financial disaster in the world since the 19th century. They have lost a huge amount of their US dollars, and trade here has come to a standstill. So the banks have said to people, you can't have your money, or you can only have a few $100s every month. The population is outraged because they cannot afford basic things, and some of them need to pay for very expensive hospital treatment, or they need to buy a house, or to pay for education. Beirut right now is a tinderbox, and people are protesting and demanding that they want their money and they want change.
Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the grey market. You take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail. But, you know, the digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control, you're right. You're completely right. We are considering whether for very small amounts, you know, anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control.
So you only have freedom if you're making a payment under $300. Everything else, the government has control and they'll be tracking everything you do. CBDCs are coming around the world, so you should start getting prepared. Time to opt out.
Crisis is when society cannot function any more productively. It collapses, obviously. That's the word for crisis. So therefore, the population at large is looking for a savior. The religious groups are expecting a messiah to come. The workers say, we have family to feed. Let's have a strong government, maybe socialist government, centralized, when somebody put the employers on their place and let us work. We are sick and tired of going to strike and missing overtime and all that stuff. We need some strong man, strong government, a leader, a savior is needed. Population is sick and tired already. And here we are. We have a savior. Either a foreign nation comes in, or the local group of leftists, Marxists, no matter what they call themselves, Sandinista, a reverend or some sort, Bishop Muzurela, like in Zimbabwe, doesn't matter. A savior comes and says, I will lead you. So we have two alternatives here. Civil war and invasion. Okay? See how it goes?
You're not going to stop 100 million people. We have the banking crisis. They say it's fine. It's just beginning. That's the beginning of the end of our currency. That means a dollar collapse. That means we become Venezuela. We will have war with China. We will have war with Russia and Iran. The fundamental transformation that started in 2008 is finished. We are no longer viewed as a superpower. We're Joe Biden just walking into the twilight. This is the time. I'm going to make a prediction. By 2025, we are going to be at war. We are going to have a new dollar, a currency that probably is coming from the central bank. We'll have a currency collapse, and we will live in a virtual police state. It's not far off. Donald Trump is not even a person anymore. He is a symbol.
Who is this guy, Klaus Schwab, one more time, and what are they really up to?
Yeah, so founded the WEF, the World Economic Forum. And I think it's important to understand, too, like where we're at in the world, right, where this peak centralization, central planning. I like to say central planning always fails. And because they don't have enough data, they know they don't have enough data. You can't organize billions of people, right, but they're trying to. And so central planning, so it's World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, World Trade Organization.
Fauci?
Yeah, World Meteorological Association, and then, the UN, the IMF, WEF, the BIS.
What's the BIS?
So that's the
Bank of International Settlements.
The Bank of International Settlements, that nobody knows what the BIS is. And the BIS...
It's a central bank.
The central bank of central banks, exactly. And so if you look at an org chart, I have in a presentation I gave at George's conference, I had an org chart of the way I see the world. And on the org chart, the BIS sits at the top. Below the BIS, then you have some of these think tanks. So the World Economic Forum is one of them, the Club of Rome. And so they're the policy makers. And then they push it down to the next row in the org chart to the policy enforcers, which are the governments. And so the government a few levels down. So it's really a coup of the bankers. And they use this banker, the BIS at the top, push these ideas through the think tanks and then down to the policy enforcers. And then we're down at the bottom of the subjects of all that, right? And so Klaus is kind of running this. He's sitting on top of the world, hobnobbing with all these people, flying their private jets over to Davos, telling us that we need to cut back on our energy.
They say about computers, crap in, crap out, right? If you put garbage into a computer, you get garbage out. That's how the computer models came up with global warming. International law is where it's leading, and this is the cause of global warming. Stands back in amazement. You mean the sun has an effect on Earth temperature? Are you kidding? What happens is the sun goes in cycles. It generates what are called sunspots, which are massive explosions of energy powered out into the solar system, which comes to the Earth eventually as solar radiation. Some of these explosions, called sunspots, are as big as the Earth and even as big as Jupiter. When it is exploding energy, the temperature goes up. This is what these sunspots are. You can see them here. I think they might have a bearing on temperature. I think so. This is the recent sunspot cycle coming round, all the rest of it. And of course there are cycles where you have a sunspot cycle going round at this level of temperature, and then you have a cycle going round at this level of temperature, so that as the cycles go round, it's hotter or cooler in the different cycles as we pass through what we call time. Now, other planets in the solar system have been warming up. I don't know whether you've seen them factories on Mars. Them bloody Martians and them 4x4s, you know, it's bloody outrageous. Now, what is the common denominator of these other planets and the Earth? Can't work it out. Must be the sun. Now, this is the great one. The temperature's higher than it's ever been since records began. When did they begin? 1862? That's 5 minutes ago in weather cycles. What are you talking about? Back about 800 years ago, they had the medieval warm period. This is mainstream science. This is not me coming up with alternative stuff. The medieval warm period, the temperature was higher than it is now. Okay? What caused the temperature to be higher in the medieval warm period than it is now? Could it have been turbocharged handcarts? What do you reckon? Could be. Flatulent horses, maybe. I can just see a medieval weather forecaster arriving in the village. Dobbin's got the wind, I think we're in for hot summer. And I'm mad. So if you follow the red, which is the Earth temperature, and the green is sunspot activity, I think there might be some connection there myself. Let's come forward. Again, the green is sunspot activity, the red is Earth temperature. Up to 1940 it was rising as we came out of the little ice age. After the war, this period included, when there was a massive increase in industrialization and therefore carbon emissions, temperatures fell from 1940 to 1975 to such an extent that the BBC were running documentaries about the dangers of the coming ice age.
Yeah, remember that.
From 75 it started to climb as sunspot activity climbed. This is a scientist, I saw his presentation a few weeks ago, called Peter Taylor. Now this man is no or the oil companies are paying him, scientist. He's a former advisor on pollution and energy policy to national governments, the EU and the UN, and he was a lead advocate for Greenpeace. He was the man who broke the story through a Yorkshire television documentary years ago, when Yorkshire television did some really good documentaries, about the cancer clusters around what was called Windscale, now Sellafield, and the connection between the two. This is what Peter Taylor, an Greenpeace advocate at one time, says about global warming. Behind the scenes there is major disagreement among scientists. I know that. People at the cutting edge of their discipline are saying it's a nonsense, it doesn't stand up. They don't get the platform that the song sheet scientists get. Parallel to carbon dioxide rising, the solar field has increased by over 200% since 1900, and this is not factored into computer models. Global temperature is not rising as predicted. In fact, it fell by a whopping 0.6 degrees over the last 12 months, as much as it had gained in the previous 50 years. Many of the apparently random fluctuations of past temperature, like when Vikings grew crops in Greenland, correlate to variations of the solar electric field. Between 1983 and 2001, cloud cover, according to International Satellite Cloud Climatology Project, fell by 4% more than enough to heat oceans and account for global warming. A spate of recent science shows that temperature oscillations are timed by solar cycles, that the jet stream is affected by the solar wind, and that past high and low points in the solar cycle correlate with past temperature swings. And as a result of that, because we're being lied to systematically, and the Quentin Letts is saying, it must be true because they're saying it, we are being scammed for vast changes in our society of a big brother nature on another massive globe.
Here are 8 chilling predictions for 2030 according to the World Economic Forum. WEF is a scary organization comprised of super rich people who have a plan of action to accumulate global power and wealth. 1. All products have become services. You will not own anything. You won't own a car, a house, any appliances or clothes. Oligarchs will still own everything and will offer housing as a service. 2. There's a global price on carbon. Environmental damage, whether it's driving your car or flying to a different country, will attract taxation. These costs will come from retail users, of course. 3. US dominance is over. The world is going to be run by a handful of global powers. US may still be a part of the dominance, but their debt position isn't looking too good at the moment, and the BRICS nations are coming up fast. 4. Hospitals. Virtual health assistants will provide more primary care than human doctors. There will also be a new idea called Internet of Bodies that will be introduced to monitor our health. Listen to this chilling quote. Human beings are no longer mysterious spiritual souls. We are now hackable animals. There will be 2 classes, the exploited and the useless class. It's better to be exploited than to be useless. 5. We will eat much less meat. 6. Today's refugees will be 2030's CEOs. Refugees will become a major source of entrepreneurial talent. 7. The Western values will be at breaking point. WEF wants democracy to be reimagined, as the values that have underpinned the liberal world order will have been tested to the breaking point. 8. We are going to Mars.
Australia's rolling out its first social credit digital ID system by mid-2023. The federal government's MyGov app, which currently holds about 25 million Australians, which is almost the entire population of the country, faces overhaul and could soon be used for online identity verification. An audit review undertaken by the former chief executive of Telstra and also some experts appointed by the Albanese government have stated that the system had gone from a strategically important ICT system to an indispensable part of the Australian government's service delivery ecosystem. One of the major changes this report recommended was advancing legislation for a government-led national ID system by mid-2023 that included, get this, safe use of facial biometric matching. You know, similar to the social credit ones they have in China. Now, if you don't trust the government and all, don't get too alarmed, because this is going to be handled by an independent regulator oversight.
Okay. Oh, okay.
In other words, your government will hand over your biometric identity to a third party because even your government doesn't trust themselves with
For the past 3 years, conspiracy theorists have been saying that climate lockdowns will be coming. And it turns out these crazy nut jobs who never know what they're talking about are right, as they seem to be with most things. As a result, the City Council in Oxfordshire, England has approved a climate lockdown plan that will be implemented in 2024. We can't wait! Details of the plan include dividing the city into 6 zones, confining residents to stay in their zones. But in order to leave their zones, residents will be required to obtain what's called permission from the City Council. Residents will also be required to register their cars with the council, who will then track their auto travel via smart cameras. They'll be allowed a maximum of 100 days per year to leave their zone.
Watch this. So you walk into the store, they got a card scanning machine. You scan your card, your debit card, your credit card, or whatever card that you got connected to your bank. The gate opens as it gets the information. You walk in, the store had multiple things like snacks, drinks, little gifts. I was going in to grab me a sandwich. I was looking for the sandwich section. I found sandwiches, looked at them, decided to go with the turkey. As I found the turkey sandwich, I grabbed one, walked away with it. Now remember, there's no cashiers or anything. Of course, I couldn't forget about the Diet Coke. Now, as you're walking around and look around the store, you realize that there were no employees. The only employee that was at the front was the person that made sure that you scanned the card before you walked in. But if you look up closely up in the ceilings, you'll see all these scanners and cameras and things of that nature. What happens is they scan the barcodes that's on the products that you purchase. As the system confirms the purchase, the gate opens, you walk out. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Here's my implants. I unlock my door with my hand. I unlock my PC with another implant. Testing my Visa card implant. It worked. I have implanted the Visa implant. Now I can pay with my hand also. I have 5 implants in my hand.
Like any other. You're at the gas station filling up your ride. You head into the store to pay.
$77, please,
says the cashier. You pull out $80 in cash and slap it on the counter.
Sorry, sir, no cash. We only take cards from now on.
With a grumble, you pull out your debit card and swipe it.
Thank you, sir. Just so you know, a note on your credit says you're almost up to your $80 limit in gas for the week. You're getting close to your government-allotted carbon emissions for the month.
Walking out of the store, you wonder what the heck he was talking about. You drive to your next errand. Along the way, you notice a long line in front of an ATM machine. You stop to check it out. People are walking away from the ATM in frustration. You stop and ask what's going on.
Oh, those machines. They stopped giving out cash.
You were told. Now you feel that little twinge of fear in your gut. You know the feeling? You knew things were getting bad, but surely things were not that bad. You check your phone. No wars, no terrorist attacks, no hurricanes or earthquakes. Still, something's up. It's getting weird out there fast. You head inside the grocery store to pick up dinner. As you head into the store, you notice long lines at the checkout counters. Anger is in the air, the smell of panic. A woman grabs your arm.
They say card only, but my card isn't working. Nobody is taking cash, and they're running out of food.
You turn around and head out. In the parking lot, you send a text to your friend. He's one of those political gun nut types, so maybe he's going to have some insight to share.
Things are getting scary. I went to the sporting goods store to buy some supplies and ammo. They're telling me that based on my Google search history and the websites I visited, I can't buy anything, even with cash. I checked my account and I have plenty of money, but they won't let me spend it. They're saying I'm flagged as a threat.
You text a few more of your friends. One says his business can no longer take payments from customers. He wonders if it's because he donated to that Freedom for America protest. Heart sinking, you remember all those donations you made recently. Another friend urgently texts you. None of her cards work either. Her online payments are not going through and her rent is due. You feel yourself starting to sweat. Tomorrow is the end of the month. You have a bunch of bills due. Another friend says he's hearing about violence in the streets, people smashing and grabbing whatever they can, banks locking their doors on customers. Your mind races. Some sort of system-wide banking crash, you suspect. You rush home. It's okay, you tell yourself. You're prepared. You've got a couple thousand in cash under the mattress. Plus, you've got your savings account and your 401k nest egg. You check your banking app on your phone. You are greeted with the following message.
Dear customer, please be advised certain purchases may be limited or not be permitted according to federal law. All our ATMs and branches are currently shut down until further notice. If you wish to speak with one of our representatives, please be aware we are experiencing higher than normal call volume and wait times will be longer than expected. Thank you and have a nice day.
You turn on the TV to get the news. Images flash on your screen of long lines at supermarkets and gas stations, stock market indices in the red, riot police, National Guardsmen in the streets. The news anchor is nodding his head solemnly.
Today, the White House directed banks and other financial institutions to stop doing business with thousands of Americans, freezing their personal bank accounts.
Palms sweating, you switch to the financial channel.
Chaos on Wall Street today after Congress authorized another round of stimulus payments directly into the spending accounts of every American. A move critics say will only increase inflationary pressures as prices spin out of control.
You flip again.
Violent protests continue to spread from the cities into the suburbs in the wake of record unemployment and reports of enforced rationing of electricity and natural gas.
In the distance you hear sirens, breaking glass. Are those gunshots? It's been a hell of a day. It's going to be a long night. Make no mistake, C-Day will change your financial life forever.
Matter of course, it's a matter of policy. But it's not hard to imagine a government hiding, hoarding technology for 70 years at the expense of human life and the future of the planet. Driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective. The takeover of America. And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war. To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. Tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose, the takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism. And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins by a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate. It's happening all.
So I'm going to tell you what I just found out about lab-grown meat, and I can assure you, you are going to be disgusted. The source of this meat, they need fast-growing cells, replicating cells, just like when you have a farm that makes fruit from a tree. You don't want to plant a new tree every week. You want a tree that gives you a lot of fruit. And this is what they're trying to do with meat. And so what do they find? Well, there's something called an immortalized cell, also known as a HeLa cell. HeLa after Henrietta Lacks, who sometime in the 1950s had cervical cancer, and they removed her cancer cells, put them in a petri dish to see how long will they continue replicating, and they're still replicating today. So if you've already started to read in between the lines, you may guess where I'm going with this, that they realized the best source for fast replicating cells to make lab-grown meat that you're going to eat are cancer and pre-cancer cells. That means taking cancerous and pre-cancerous cells, literally putting them as the base and having those replicate to continue as a fast as possible pace, produce the meat that you're going to eat. And if that isn't disgusting enough, wait for part 2, and I'm going to tell you the second source.
Norway produces more farmed salmon and cod than any other country in the world. About 70% of the fish we eat today now comes from artificial fish farms.
What?
As thousands of fish are kept close together in very small sea cages, disease and lice spread easily and have become a massive problem.
Oh my God.
As a result, pesticides, disinfectants, and antibiotics are used extensively to keep the fish alive long enough to go to market. In order to rid the fish of lice, special pumping boats are used, which suck the fish up in a giant water vacuum. The fish are then pumped through the system, and as they flow through, they are either heated to a high temperature or bathed in a chemical solution which removes most of the lice before being pumped back into the cage.
No.
The fish are bathed in chemicals such as hydrogen peroxide and azomethylphos to kill the parasites and diseases, and given feed with chemicals such as teflubenzuron, emamectin, and diflubenzuron.
No way.
Which, by their very nature, are toxic.
Corrosive.
Researchers have found that traces of chemicals can end up in the fish, and ultimately on our plates.
Jesus.
This is much the same for farmed fish all around the world.
As a wrap-up, I would like to share a message to Klaus for him to tell his own masters that my name is Noor bin Laden. I am a human being, not a QR code. I don't want to eat the bugs. I don't want to live in the pod. I don't want to be trapped in a digital jail, and nothing they can do will make me. I want to keep my God-given freedom and my human dignity. They cannot take this away from me. And we will see the day where these people will be tried for their crimes against humanity.